All right, everybody. There is going to become a time after you're leveraging your network and you're making some money and the clients are calling and you're going to have to decide on a pricing structure, okay? This can be difficult for people because they don't know where to start. They don't know what their photographs are worth. They don't know how important their photographs are to their clients. They're not quite in tune with all their skills yet. So you have to keep into consideration where your skills are, along with how you are able to meet your client's needs. So in this lesson, we're not going to teach you any amount to set your price at, but I'm going to show you some strategies that we use and that I've used for, decades, okay? And these are also commonly practiced by other photographers as well. So we're going to start up here with portrait. A typical standard practice for a pricing model for portraits would be a session fee of some amount, whether it's a family, children, head and shoulders, whatever sort of photography portrait that you're doing, you would have a fee amount. Now, a common fee would be like $175 per the day. And then you'd have a print price list. And your print price list, you must figure that out. You must figure out all the common print sizes, and then times it by 2 or 4 of your cost. So if your print costs you $1, either charge $2 to $4. Okay, simple as that. Here's the thing about your print price list is you want it to be a tiered profit margin. So imagine a 5x7 you're charging times 2. Make sure that your profit is going up every time somebody buys a print that's larger than the previous. So imagine your 5x7 is it costs you $1, okay? But you're selling it for 2, so you're making $1, okay? Make sure your 8x10, which is the next size up, would be like times 4 of the cost, so that your profit continues to rise as your prints get larger, okay? You do this in a way where it gives you internally the incentive to upsell to larger print sizes, because the larger the print size, the larger your profit margin, okay? But you want to make your low end, like your 4x6, 5x7, 8x10, you want to make them affordable, but you do want to make sure you're making some amount on it. Honestly, times 2 is a little low. Okay, you can name your price. Okay, we're photographers here. We're artists. We get to really name our price, but we have to be able to back it up. Okay, so here's my strategy when it comes to portraits. Is I set up a simple print price list that follows the scale of the common dimensions that are frame sizes that you'd find at Michael's or at like Walmart or something like that. Frame sizes that are commonly manufactured, so that my print sizes are also commonly manufactured, which brings my cost down, okay? So I build a print price list all the way up to like 20 by 24, and then I go to canvas, okay? Then I upsell to canvas, and the canvas actually matches the same amount that the print costs me once it hits 16 by 20, and it's an upsell, okay? So at 16 by 20, I'm making even more of a profit than I would be even at times 4, okay? So and then you upsell it as canvas is the latest and greatest thing that you put on your wall, and it doesn't reflect light, so you can see it from any angle, blah, blah, blah. You build the regular print price list, because that's what they're expecting, and then you give them a canvas upsell, which is actually the same amount for you at the 16 by 20 rate. So once these two meet at 16 by 20, it's the same amount. Now ask me about the labs that I use, and I'll show you which ones I use, okay? And then you continue on with your tiered profit margin. So you use Canvas to upsell your clients. This is a strategy that works for me all the time. And then I offer other mediums that are specialty installations, like artistic installations, you can call them. And that's like your acrylic or like your metal mounted or anything that would be in like a business setting. Something that's different than whatever your print is and whatever your upsell. Your upsell could be an acrylic. Your upsell could be a metal. Whatever your upsell is, make sure you're following the tiered profit margin, and then make sure your upsell also follows that and continues on with that tiered profit margin. Because a tiered profit margin, what is your motivation to sell larger prints and do better work and get better results? And trust me, you want if one of your largest prints doesn't have as big of a profit margin as one of your lowest prints, you need to readjust that. You need to factor in whatever it is your upsell, okay? So moving on to weddings. Now, this one is one I have a unique approach with. But what most people do is a simple, involved, and all-inclusive. So either 1,000, 3,000, 5,000, or 2,000, 6,000, 10,000. Well, whatever it is, there's 3 different packages to choose from. Let me tell you what, brides hate this, okay? But it works. It works for everybody else. But I take a unique approach, and I charge in the 5 figures for single wedding weekends, and it's because I only offer one investment option, and it's literally called all inclusive. There's no breakdown of what you get because you get everything. So, and everybody knows that who knows me. So you can play with weddings. I don't know, 3 seems like a lot. I already know from my experience that even having 2 can be a lot, but I can see where brides would be attracted to the 2 over the 3. Whatever the case may be, if you're ready to do weddings and you've been doing a lot of regular events, then maybe you're ready to start doing weddings, you're going to want to come up with a pricing structure, and they're going to ask about prints afterwards, and they're going to ask about flush mount albums, and they're going to ask about thank you cards, and they're going to ask you about all this stuff. Go to millerslab.com and give them a call and ask them for a sample of all their wedding materials. This will help you structure what your add-ons are when it comes to wedding photography. millerslab.com is the flagship of all printing labs within the United States and probably the world. So that's where you're going to want to get your prints made. That's who you're going to want to work with. They have top-notch customer service. They're amazing. Just millerslab.com. They are the owners of mpix.com, if you know them. Use Miller's. They treat you like royalty, and you get fantastic results, and sometimes your prints are to your door within 24 hours. It's pretty nice. So, okay, back to weddings. Require. This is an absolute must. Whatever your price is that they choose, you must take a half-down deposit that day. Like, I'm serious, that moment. In order to reserve, you tell them, I have a very busy wedding calendar, and especially if it's during the months that are busy for weddings, like, like September, towards the fall or late summer. You tell them, I have only so many weekends available, so in order to get you on the books, I need the half-down deposit immediately. Okay, that will reserve your date, and I can't reserve your date otherwise. I mean, I have people calling all the time. In fact, I think I even have somebody waiting on that such and such a date right now. This is the urgency, people. This is when they're okay, we gotta do it. Okay, boom. And then their wedding won't be for a year out, but they just gave you $2,000 or whatever half of your cost is, okay? You build out a contract, okay? Must get a half-down deposit, no exceptions. Absolutely no exceptions. Trust me, from a 20-year veteran of weddings, there are no exceptions here, all right? You must get a half-down deposit on the day of, or prior, when they book the actual day itself on your calendar. In order to put it on your calendar, you have to have half-down of the deposit amount, okay? So you want the remaining balance to be 14 days prior to the wedding, okay? You want to communicate this and include it in your contract. So make sure that you're using a contract of some sort. It doesn't need to be elaborate as long as it says the dates and times and the amounts that's been paid and initialed and signed. And if you want, you can have an attorney write one up for you. If you're rather intelligent, you can write up your own, or there's templates that you can download and just fill in the information of your own business name. So you can do that, whatever it is. But know that there's going to become a time where they're going to want to upsell other products after the wedding, okay? So be ready for that sort of thing, like flush mount albums, thank you cards, prints, those sorts of things. All right, so wildlife and landscape. Here we get into some really interesting stuff, because you're falling into, if you're a wildlife, if you're landscape, or you're a fine artist in photography, you name your price, okay? So you'll notice, if you probably know me pretty well by now, I fall heavily into this category, as well as architectural, into the wedding, into the portrait, and not really events anymore, but the first 4 I can fall under, as well as commercial, which is a completely different ball game, okay? So when it comes down to wildlife, landscape, or fine art, or any sort of piece of photography that you're selling as an art item for wall decor, you must tailor your price to your niche buyers. Okay, so if you're selling at like an art festival, you'd probably charge more than you would in an art gallery. Okay, that psychology is that there's already people buying at an art festival, so you get that little buyer's like craze mentality going where everybody's on a buyer's high because somebody else is buying it and they want it, and they make there's just the psychology behind buying. Okay, so if you have more prospects that are a little bit more wealthy, you're going to want to raise your prices. But when you talk about gallery commissions, okay, now we're going to talk about art galleries for a second here. When you're talking about art galleries, when you put your work into an art gallery, you got to understand that art galleries operate on commission sales. Okay, so you want to add your percentage of the commission sale on top of whatever you think your cost is. Okay, just to make up for that cost amount. Okay, and make sure you factor your material costs into your pricing. Okay, calculate the total cost of your production and make sure that's included on top of the amount of hours it took you in your lifetime to understand what it took to photograph whatever that is that you're selling. Okay, you have to make sure that people understand that it's not the photograph that they're buying, it's the amount of skill and know-how and the amount of blood, sweat, and tears and just heartache that it took for you to develop that image. That has to reflect it in the pricing. Okay, so you enter an interesting area of psychology there, and you can name your price, which is a beautiful thing. So let's talk about the differences between galleries, art festivals, restaurants, and cafes, because these are really common applications that you're going to find ways to sell your artwork in, and your pricing should vary according to that venue. Now, if you're in a regular cafe, you're not going to want to put something into the four figures on something small. Okay, you see what I'm saying? Like, now, if you're in a restaurant, that's a different story. If you get yourself on a restaurant wall and people are taking in that artwork when they're on their first date or whatever, you see, you gotta scout out. You gotta do your tracing. You do your little bit of tracing. Figure out what kind of patrons go to that restaurant. You know, what kind of money do they have? What kind of money do they spend? How many people go in and out? What's the lighting going to be like? Where that photo is going to be on the wall? Daytime and nighttime. What's the lighting going to look like? That should tell you whether or not you're going to put it behind glass. So you're going to want to figure out all these things. All right. Remember, we're going to talk about training your eyes a lot. This is what we're talking about. Okay. You got to train your brain too behind human psychology. All right. So, and then you're talking about art festivals where I make a lot of money at. At art festivals, everybody's unique approach is different, so it's an enjoyable area to be in, but you're fighting with the weather a lot, and so you don't want to make it your main method of income. If you're thinking photography, you don't want to rely on art festivals, although they can be extremely lucrative. And I mean like six-figure plus lucrative for some people. Yes, you can make a lot of money at them, but they're a lot of work. They take a team. It helps with a team, and like I said, if you want to know more about art festivals, let me know. And then art galleries that you similar to art festivals, similar approach. I mean, just art galleries. You approach them. They either buy it outright and then sell it, or they do it on a commission basis. When you get prestigious in this field, you will no longer want to do gallery commission anymore, and gallery owners respect that. That's a little tidbit, gold nugget for everybody. When you're at a tier and you have a niche and you're really like well established, the reputation, you can approach galleries and they'll be happy that you approached them, as well as buy work outright. You just tell them we don't do commission anymore, and you can just approach it like we're so busy it honestly confuses our books, and it's just there's no need for us to do it anymore. I mean, do you want our work or not? And no, that's okay. I mean, you have to remember that when you're doing this is art. Okay, it's subjective, and you have to find your own niche within a niche to be an artist. Okay, we can talk more about that in the free group if you guys like, or I mean in the private group. All right, on to architectural, because this is really where I'm at right now with my photography and most of what I do. Here's how I have my methods laid out for rates. I'll do an hourly rate, and that will be, I said 150 is normal, and you want to communicate a range of expected hours to your client. Same thing with a day rate, X amount per day, project rate, X amount for the entire project. But I want to talk about the three of these before, because they look simple, but I want to talk about these for a few minutes. If you're going for an hourly rate, you're looking at the low end of the spectrum for architectural work. So you're looking more like real estate photography and internal, like indoor stuff, like clinic stuff, that kind of thing. Things that's only going to take a half day. Now you can be like me and say I don't do half days. Regardless of the length of the project, I must charge an entire day. So I actually only have a day rate and a project rate. But you can do it one of these three ways, and this is how I highly recommend you do it. I highly recommend you start with an hourly rate, and maybe 150 is normal if you're experienced and you have the wide-angle gear for that. But other than that, honestly, $100 an hour for an hourly rate for any type of photography is a fair price, okay? Just so everybody knows that if you're looking for like a solid number, what is, hourly rate? And we're talking the post-production as well. So understand that this $100 per hour to them is just the photography part, but in the background that you're doing the post-production, okay? So find your workflow. Figure out how quickly you can get stuff done because you can charge more day rates, okay? Now, when you get into a commercial / architectural world of photography, you start to fall into day rates and project rates, okay? And they can be simultaneously the same. Usually this is how it goes down. My last one was like this. We wanted to do fall photos and winter photos. So we had to plan at least 9 days. 7 of the days would have been during the fall, and 2 of the days would have been in the winter, okay? And I charged $2,000 per day. So again, think back to the wedding. I got half down immediately that day to book those days. But I also communicated in my project that this is an ongoing project, and any additional hour as a project rate would be my day rate times 0.5 or whatever. You have to understand, if it goes longer, you can charge more, okay? And you can use this as a negotiation tactic to get them locked into a flat, massively huge project rate itself. So if you're talking with like corporations, you can structure it in a way where the day rate is so questionable that it's better for them to put you on like a project rate or like quote unquote a retainer for $20,000 for the year. And whatever it is they have, you make sure you get it accomplished. And whatever that takes, okay? So you have to understand, there's big money to be made. But if you need a $3,000 lens, you have to build that into your price. You see what I'm talking about? Like if you need something gear-wise, you build it into your project rate, okay? So, am I connecting some dots here for people? Do you want to be in this area of photography? Because guess what? You don't have to work with people all that much. And the people that you're working with is just the people who are buying your images, not the people in front of the lens. I'm not hating on portraits. I've done portraits for 20 years and I still do them and I do a fantastic job. I'm just saying architectural work, they'll buy your gear for you. Okay. So those are the kinds of clients that we'll be talking about. Or if you've already watched the video or you're about to, called client portfolio tracing, dream clients. It's lesson 3 of week 6. Those dream clients are these architectural people with the project rates, right? They're the guys at the marketing teams. They've got X amount of dollars already budgeted, waiting in their pocket to be pulled out of their pocket and put into yours, okay? You have to convince them. And then we're going to talk about events. This one's pretty straightforward. You approach events. We're talking like birthday parties, reunions, whatever, corporate gatherings, anything like that. Any kind of event that's more like photojournalistic, more like you're photographing like an event that's going on, and you're telling more of the story of what happened on that day. Like I said, a birthday party is a good one. You're going to want to do another hourly / daily rate, and I would negotiate that by inquiring like about specific variables of the event itself. Like how big is the area? Is it indoor or outdoor? What type of lighting situation? What type of a venue is it at? how many people are going to be there, how many main people, that is like the main focus of the event, how many of those are there, and ask them all these questions and come up with an hourly or a day rate. And like I said, $100 an hour is not out of the question. I think I'm going to leave this one here with that idea in mind. You think around $100 an hour, and then think about making sure you're including the amount of whatever it is that you're selling costs you too, and either times that by 2 to 15, depending however you want, however bold you are. So hopefully you enjoyed that bonus lesson. Hopefully this gets you started. You can download this down below in the link below. This will get you started with pricing yourself. Now, I know you're going to have questions, so why don't you ask me in the private group after you've gone over this document in this video, and let me help you out with your pricing method, because I think I'd have a lot of fun doing that. So we'll see you later.